Welcome to the Fossil Fundamentals podcast, brought to you by fossilsuk.com. I'm Byron, paleontologist, geologist, and lifelong fossil hunter. And in this show, we sit down with collectors, experts, and adventurers to uncover the real stories behind the fossils. Welcome to another Fundamentals podcast brought to you by fossilsuk.com. Today's guest is someone who's quite literally lived and breathed fossils for decades. 50 years of fossil hunting, and he's still finding new things. He serves as curator of Lyme Regis Museum. He's one of the key figures behind one of the biggest fossil events in the UK, the Lyme Regis Fossil Festival. A true authority on the Lower Lias. He's someone who has helped shape modern public engagement with paleontology in the UK. Today's guest is Dr. Paul Davies. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Byron. Well, there we go. I've had a lot of smoke blown at me there, haven't I?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's it's amazing what you can find on the internet about you.
Is it? Oh, blimey!
Yeah.
I should go digitally
In
dark.
a good way or a bad way. I don't know if that's a good thing. Anyway, so let's get into it. I've obviously known you for many years. I knew you even when I was a student. I knew you.
Well, I can't even remember. Did I actually teach you when you were at Bristol?
Yeah, I think you did. But I think you might have taken me on field trips.
That's probably more likely. Yeah, out in the field. I don't want to do it in the classroom if I can help it.
I think so. Yeah. So that's going back a few years.
Yeah. When we both had hair.
Yeah. Well, I was probably thinning at that point. Yeah. Back in my teens. I was still already thinning. But yeah, for those of you out there that don't know Paul, Paul, tell people about yourself. What first sparked your interest in fossils as well, and can you remember your first proper fossil find when you were young? What got you into it?
It was all down to a book on dinosaurs from W.H. Smith's in Aberystwyth, of all places. I bought a book on dinosaurs, read it. I was on holiday there, read it, was totally fascinated. Up until that point, I was always keen on being a medical doctor. That was always my thing. I read the book on dinosaurs. That was it. That's it. I'm going to be a paleontologist.
So going from human anatomy to dinosaur anatomy, effectively.
Well, it is easier because they don't move around so much.
No, you don't have the soft bits.
No, all the soft squidgy bits. It's much easier. Yeah. And so that was it. I was mad keen, and I grew up in the middle of the country. Unfortunately, we had coal mines back then. We're going almost Edwardian days. We actually had a coal industry, and I could go and wander over coal tips and find coal measure plants, and that sort of got me into it. I did lose my wellies.
Pretty much the same way, because my family is from a pit mining community. My grandfather and uncles used to work down the pit and used to bring me fossils as well. That's pretty much the same.
And so I did actually went off on my own. I was about 6. I went off on my own and I lost my wellies. And my parents said, well, this is probably not going to go away. So they said, what do you want for your 6th birthday? Do you want a party or do you want to go to Lyme Regis fossil hunting? Well, it was absolutely no real decision. They were delighted. They didn't get jelly and ice cream mashed into the shag pile carpet, and they got a holiday as well. So that every Easter from then on, they used to take me to down to Dorset and Jurassic Coast. I lost my wellies when I was 6. I went off collecting by myself and got stuck in the mud, and my parents had to come and rescue me. They then sort of gave me an offer. They said, do you want a birthday party when you're 6? Or do you want to go to Lyme Regis fossil collecting? And I went, no contest, Lyme Regis fossil collecting. From then on in, and they were really happy. They didn't get jelly and ice cream mashed into the shag pile by a load of 6-year-olds. And they got a holiday in Dorset. So they were quite happy.
Yeah. And then you, from then on, you obviously went to university?
Yeah, yeah, it was just that was it. Everything was just working to go to university, study geology. Fortunately, I've got some sort of semblance of brain in my head, so breeze through your O levels as they were then and A levels,
Yeah, yeah,
and got to where I wanted to go. I mean, I picked my university based on how close it was to the Jurassic Coast. I picked Exeter.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah,
if you look at the choices, I think it was Reading, Southampton, and Exeter in those days because they were universities. They weren't burgeoning universities that we have now, where
yeah,
there
yeah,
were a
yeah,
lot more.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then once you were at university, you carried on through into doing a
Into a
PhD.
PhD, yeah, into vertebrate paleo, and that's where I met you when you were
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
you were a student. Because I think you were doing the masters, weren't you?
Yes, well, I was. I did my undergraduate in Cardiff, so it was mainly at that time. It was more igneous petrology and geochemistry, which I never did chemistry at GCSE, so that was one of my stumbling blocks. But it was actually ended up being one of my best modules, funnily enough. But it was mainly igneous petrology, and paleontology was actually only a very very small subject at that time in that area. But during the paleontology, I had to do a mini theses during that process, and actually um, they actually said, "Do you want to go into the Naturalist Museum of Cardiff in Cardiff itself?" A Naturalist Museum of Wales in Cardiff, and I went in there to see if there was any projects and what have you, and I met Cindy Howell, who said, "Oh, we've got these little teeny tiny teeth things you can look at," and that's what got me started looking at Mesozoic mammals, effectively, and then during a brief period when I was coming up to the end of the course, a friend of mine, she came over, who was part of the paleontology, and said, "Oh, have you seen this leaflet about the paleontology degree course, the master's degree course in Bristol?" And I think it was the only second year that it was running. And she said, "Oh, you might be interested in this," and that's basically what I did. I basically went and did that in Bristol, and yeah, it was absolutely very interesting, very
I mean,
interesting.
it's really interesting because I mean, it was my undergraduate lecturers who pointed me in the direction. I mean, Exeter wasn't a very strong paleontology base, but
Was
I
that was that the Exeter School of Mines then, or
no,
was it
no, that was at
just
Exeter
Exeter
Uni
itself?
because we were the last year to go through. There was a thing called the Oxborough Review, which basically they were going to rationalise all sciences, and geology was the first one. So Ron Oxborough was, I think, he was head of geology at Oxford Uni, or became head at Oxford, and his review went through, and they looked at all the geology departments, and huge numbers were scheduled for closure. So places like Goldsmiths went in London,
Yeah,
um, Exeter went, and they were the only. Actually, there were a load more that were scheduled for closure, but they were the only ones who sort of like actually went in the end. Quite a few of the others actually.
yeah. Was that the time when because I remember when I was a student looking to find places that did geology, and there wasn't that many. It was more kind of earth sciences and more related, more industrial related, so more kind of towards mining and oil industries in that way, rather than actually pure geology.
So
Is that
yeah,
the
so
reason?
you had places like Imperial, which were very strong with the oil industry,
Yes, yeah,
with people like Dick Selly there in charge, who were they were sedimentologists working the oil exploration. But some of the big places that were scheduled to go were places like Leicester, and
right,
there was a
yeah,
huge number of places that were on the hit list, and they were going to try and rationalise it down. I have no idea why. I can't remember why, but we were the last year to go through Exeter. But there
yeah,
was a huge number of us who became quite well paleontologists working in the field. The year before me, there was Chris Smart, who's now at Plymouth. There was Charlie Underwood, who's at Birkbeck.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Prior to that, you got John Maisie, who was at the AMH, the big fish expert.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There was quite a lot of paleontologists went through, even though Exeter wasn't a strong paleo place.
Yeah. 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 And so after Exeter, where did you go after
Well, I
Exeter?
was always quite keen on vert paleo. I wasn't a dinosaur nut. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never really. I like them, you know, but as I
Well,
like in the
probably
same
get back
way, I
to that.
might
We'll
like
probably get back to that later when we do the quick fire
in the
round.
same
But
way I like might like ostracods or
yeah.
forearms. They're interesting, but vert paleo is often dominated by everybody
Yeah.
wanting to work on dino. I
Yeah. Yeah.
wasn't that way. I
Yeah.
was just interested, and so when I was an undergraduate, lecturers said, "Well, because you're in Devon and Cornwall, why don't you do your project on vert paleo in Devon and Cornwall?" And I went, "What vert paleo in Devon and Cornwall?"
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
said, "There are a load of Devonian fish." So I
Yeah. Yeah.
went
Yeah.
down and collected lower Devonian fish and
I mean,
dated them.
the outcrops of those are not extensive. They're
Well,
only.
strangely enough, they're more extensive than you actually think.
Oh, okay.
But they're quite cryptic. In that you've got to. It's not like here on the Jurassic Coast where everything's nice and it's all layered and they're not.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah.
all sort of like nice and soft and squidgy. These things have been totally messed about beyond all recognition, and you can only find the horizons where the structure and the sedimentology align. So if because you get thing called cleavage in the rocks where the pressure pushes the rocks and aligns all the minerals. So you can only find the specimens where the cleavage and the bedding are naturally back aligned, so they split along the bedding planes.
Yes. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it involves being quite a good geologist to spot this, and then
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can find the localities, but there are more than you think.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's not a because obviously the Devonian it was very tectonically active as well. So
Yeah, so the
it
southwest
got very
pattern was during
it
the
got
cut.
very baked as well, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same as you would have seen when you were in Cardiff in South Wales. It was a thing called the Variscan orogeny at the end of the
Yeah.
Carboniferous,
Yeah.
a thing called the Rheic Ocean closed. So basically, the bottom bit of Cornwall and Devon was attached to what is Europe, the French, Belgian, German massif, and the rest of the country was
Was north of that.
separated by an ocean. That ocean
Yeah.
closed.
Yeah.
It created all of the structures you see in South Wales and in Devon and Cornwall. The granites were all part of that closure of that ocean, the famous Dartmoor granites and Bodmin and Land's End and all the rest of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that makes that fauna really interesting because it's different fauna to the one that we get in the UK. It was separated by an ocean. And these are freshwater, mainly fishes.
All right. Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So you did the
Fish.
freshwater fish,
And then I did
and then
birds.
sorry.
Then I did birds.
Birds. Now that's a bit of a there's a bit of a time difference between fish and birds.
It was a case of, in those days, PhDs were funded, and it
Yeah,
was
absolutely. Yeah,
the projects were funded rather than the individual. There's been a swap these days where individuals get funded rather
yeah,
than projects.
yeah,
And I saw the projects, and the reason I went to Bristol, they got some vert paleo projects. The one I wanted to do was ichthyosaurs. I was
yes,
always interested in ichthyosaurs from coming down to Dorset, and there was a project looking at the basically the morphometrics, the growth
yes,
of ichthyosaurs and whether ontogeny follows phylogeny and all the
yes,
rest of it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
there was this really interesting project, and I thought, that's the one for me. I know
yeah, yeah,
ichthyosaurs
yeah.
inside out. And unfortunately, it went to a friend of mine who was self-funded. So,
Okay, right, okay, yeah, yeah,
so they could fund only two of the vert
yeah,
paleo ones, but they put six out there, and then basically other people who were actually self-funded got some of the other ones.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
actually
yeah,
went to work with him in Japan. He was from
yeah, yeah.
Japan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very, very, very similar. Well, not similar to me, but I was offered several PhDs, but they were not funded. So, and I
Yeah,
couldn't self-fund them. So,
no,
so hence why I ended up doing what I do now,
yeah.
through different means. But yeah, it wasn't available for me, unfortunately. Because obviously there was a very good one in Bristol again, a very good PhD project, which was ideal for me, was looking at paleocast deposits,
Oh,
and
yeah, in the carb limestone and looking at the
yeah,
fish gills.
absolutely, yeah. So
Yeah.
so looking at ancient cave deposits and how the fossils have got into those deposits, and that would have been a follow on from not just my undergraduate, but also my master's thesis as well, would have been just a continuation of that as well. So, but unfortunately, there was no funding. And then the other PhD was actually, which I got offered, was working with um, the Crew Formation in South Africa,
Oh, wow.
looking at the Mesozoic mammals there. But unfortunately, again, it was unfunded. And the family said, "You're not moving to the murder capital of the world," which is quite understandable. It would have been a very interesting project, but
Bristol, you mean?
yeah, well, no, yeah, yeah. There's certain parts, St Paul's probably, yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Um, but yeah, so that negated that, unfortunately for me. But in retrospect, I actually found that my skill set lay in other areas.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, like I say, you're renowned for being quite a good businessman, and you've
yes,
utilised that skill set, and
yes,
you're still in
yes,
paleontology, very
yes,
much so.
it just, like I say to everybody, it just knowing about a subject is great. You can, if you're a businessman, you know about the subject. It's much easier to continue that, and sell products to people. Um, but it's having that knowledge base, I think, that helps.
Absolutely.
But I say to everybody, it's actually could be any commodity, but I have the skill set that I know more about fossils than I do about any other commodity. But I could transfer those skill sets to any other company or any other business, and it would still work. So I think ultimately, I think everybody has a skill set in their life, I, like I say, I just happened to find mine,
I mean, and
maybe.
that's certainly true from schools. We teach we teach people subjects that, well, let's be honest about it, mildly useful in everyday life. You know,
Yes, yeah,
what we don't do is teach our kids to develop their talents,
yes,
and we don't have a GCSE in you know learning how to run a business, for
no,
example.
no, no, no. I mean, even if you did a business degree, I don't think it gives you the required skill set to run a business. I know an awful lot of people that have had that background and have been awful at running businesses,
But
and you could probably see that in the modern day life as well.
it's
Um,
not only that. We don't capture talents. We try and standardize, and it's the way of education has always been. We are producing, in effect, factory fodder, in effect,
yeah,
based on a Victorian system. I mean, I only know this from actually qualifying as a teacher and teaching for a while, believe it or not. And you can see that you don't. What's the word I'm looking for? People have passions, people have talents, people have skill sets that for the majority of people who go through the school system, it doesn't develop them properly for them.
well, I think it doesn't also give you practical experience in the outside world either.
No.
I think that's one of the keys. I mean, uh, that's one of the, it's. I know an awful lot of people who dropped out of school,
Yeah.
um, and then went on to be very, very successful businessmen. I think Lord Sugar was one of them, I believe, maybe.
Yeah.
But they've all got a certain skill set, and everybody, I think everybody has a skill set that, or a passion, or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure what I'm looking for.
Talent.
Some people are very, very good at hairdressing. Some people are very good at music.
Yeah. They're
And
often
it's recognizing
creative
that.
things. We stifle creativity in the
Yeah, yeah,
educational
yeah,
system
yeah, yeah, yeah,
for standardized way that we do things. You've got to do English, you've got to do maths, you've got to do sciences, and then all your creative stuff. Well, if there's any time left over, you can pick a few from what you something more creative or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It tends to be more kind of hobbies, doesn't it? Creativities tend to be hobbies, painting and
I mean,
and such
there's
like.
there's, there's no O level in fossil preparation.
No, no, no. Which I would like to see more of in. I think it is coming through. I was contacted by somebody the other week that they're actually setting up a course in one of their departments, giving them those practical experiences. Because there was nothing in the degrees that I did. There was nothing to do with preparation in anything, in any shape or form. And when there was, basically we weren't given any guidance. Just like, here's the tools, here's the theory, off you go.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I mean, a lot of people in the world go to a museum. They see a nice dinosaur in a museum that's all mounted and prepped and everything, but they don't see the process from actually it being dug out of the ground to actually getting like that. And I think people would appreciate that work more if they actually saw that process going on.
or even
That,
or
that
even the six welders
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
who were
yeah,
sitting there making the armature and making
yeah, yeah,
it sort of like fit and all the rest of it, which is,
yeah, yeah.
I look at that and go, well, I couldn't do that. That's not
No,
my
no,
skills.
no, absolutely no. No, I haven't got a skill set for that. No, I haven't got any DIY skills at all. But but yeah, I mean, taking like, I mean, that's why it takes so long for finding a dinosaur to from digging it out of the ground to actually seeing it in a museum. It can take years to prepare that specimen. You have to dig, take out all the individual bones. You have to then replace any missing parts, and it takes an awful lot. And it's not just one person; it can be a team of people, can't it?
Yeah.
Um,
Which also very interesting. Then once you've got them into the museum, you then have to look after them, because as soon as you've
yes,
removed them from the ground, you've removed them from where they were stable, and you've
yes,
now got them somewhere on the
yeah,
whole which is
yeah,
unstable. So
yeah,
you can do your chemistry. I mean, it's entropy basically. Everything tends to decay, and
yeah, 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 yeah. No, that's great. Anyway, let's move on to the next section. Um, you're now on the Jurassic Coast down in Dorset, looking at the Lower Lias, and you describe yourself as slightly obsessed with the Lower Lias. Don't worry,
yeah,
that came from the internet, not me. It
yeah,
came
that's
from the
fine.
internet.
Yes, I am slightly obsessed. I've always been
Yes.
slightly obsessed with the lower
So
lions.
let's talk about Dorset, in particular Lyme Regis, and why is it such a hot spot for world class fossils? Um, do you think there's any major discoveries still to be found? We know there was one a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Um, and realistically, what can people maybe find on when they're walking on the beaches in Dorset? Let's talk about the Lyme Regis full stop. Well, we're talking Lyme Regis, but we're talking about Dorset coast now. So
Yeah, okay.
it's really the stretch of coast from really Beer and Sidmouth
Yeah.
to Weymouth, I guess,
Well,
or a little bit
it, ac-
further on.
no, it actually starts. So if you're taking the Jurassic Coast, which is the World Heritage Site,
Yeah,
for a long period, it was our only natural World Heritage Site in the
yeah,
UK. It's,
yeah,
of an equivalent standing, if you're looking for a natural one, to something like the Grand Canyon,
yes, yeah, yeah,
which also sits up there. And if you're looking for I suppose, more man-made ones, things like Stonehenge or Westminster Abbey. It's the Taj Mahal. It's the cream of the cream. And it's a perfect, I suppose, natural accident of the geology and geography. So we've got this coast whereby it is exposed to the storms of the southwest. So they barrel up the channel and they come in from the Atlantic. So we've got this wonderful natural erosion going on, creating the wonderful coastline that we see. But better than that, we've got, due to the tectonic activity, everything is slightly tilted. It's all slightly tilted to the east. So the oldest rocks are in the west, the youngest in the east. And basically, you've got a slice through pretty much the whole of the Mesozoic. So we start the Permian and the Trias over at Exmouth, at Orcombe Point. By the time you get to Lyme Regis, you've now gone through the Triassic with a small oddity at Beer for the Cretaceous, the chalk, which is a structural a discontinuity there. So, and then by the time you get to Lyme, you're into the Jurassic, and you start through the Jurassic, and the Jurassic were marine rocks. They were laid down in a warm, sort of like subtropical sea. They were quite deep. And so there was plenty of life, teeming with life. There were your typical things you expect to see in the Jurassic, ammonites and belemnites and ichthyosaurs. But because of the depth and things and the quality of the preservation, at times you get exceptional preservation. You get complete skeletons. You get weird things like insect wings preserved, or complete insects which are blown out, or even complete dinosaurs. So you get the thing called Scelidosaurus, which was sort of like this spiky herbivore type thing.
They probably got washed out. Do you think? Or
well, what's really interesting, they're all in exactly the same horizon. So
interesting.
We've got a couple of odd bones from a different horizon, but we have got large numbers. I think. Oh gosh, let me get me numbers right. I think we've got. Is it somewhere between 10 and 16 skeletons or partial skeletons?
Yeah, I thought it was roughly about 15 or something like that. Yeah.
All from, see, I told you I wasn't that interested in dinosaurs, all from the exact same horizon. And we've got juveniles, we've got subadults, we've got adults.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
We've got sexual dimorphism in the adults, showing that the male and female are different due to their armor. So these things were the ancestors to the stegosaurs and the ankylosaurs. So the things with all the spikes, and like what we call dermal armor. But so you get exceptional things like that, and like you were saying, they were probably all washed out. It might have been a herd that was washed out to sea.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, maybe a flash flood or something like that that then caught them unawares, and got washed out. Or if although I think there would be evidence for this, a tsunami or something like that, maybe. But I think there would be geological evidence for that if there was a tsunami, because the way that the rocks form.
So there is that. So, and also we were just in the right place at the right time for the burgeoning start of paleontology 200 years back.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you think of the famous people at the birth, you have people like William Buckland, who was from Axminster, which is like 3-4 miles behind me that way.
A couple of miles from Lyme Regis,
Henry Delabèche. First, Buckland. So Dean William Buckland became the Dean of Westminster, but before that, he was the first professor of geology at Oxford.
And they used to call themselves naturists, didn't they?
Rather
than geologists.
They were sort of gentlemen scientists. So they were
scientists, yeah.
I mean, that's the easiest way at that start. It was natural theology, because everything was associated. Nearly all these people were highly religious and involved in the church, because that's what you did when you went to university.
Yeah,
you did theology, and university was for training the clergy.
We're talking many centuries ago rather
Oh,
than
yeah, 200 years ago. We're talking the late 1700s, early 1800s, even right through to about maybe 1850, 1860. So Buckley described the first dinosaur, Megalosaurus, in 1824 from Oxfordshire. Um, We've got Davies. He was the first director of the Geological Survey, which was a new organisation because they saw that the Geological Survey would be a useful thing for identifying the mineral and the economic wealth from the rocks.
yes,
So
yeah,
by knowing where all the things were, the Geological Survey was created. Henry Delabèche was basically had a holiday home here. He was associated with Lyme. You had William Conybeare, another um, cleric. He was the vicar of Axminster and then ended up being the dean of Llandaff in Cardiff. So going back to where you studied, and he described the first complete plesiosaur. He was one of the ones involved in describing the first ichthyosaurs. So, and every somebody sort of passed through because it was on the main route from London or Bath to Exeter or from Bristol. So it was
yeah,
easy to get to. Richard Owen came through
yeah,
in about mid 1840s, late 1840s.
yeah.
So
And then
yeah,
he set up
he
the
had
Naturalist Museum
Naturalist
as
Museum, British
well.
Museum.
So I mean, at that time, it was like you say, the frontiers of paleontology, I guess, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, it was, and I mean, you just we haven't mentioned Mary Anning, obviously,
Not
who was
yet. No.
yeah, but she was based here, and she was one of the draws. So she was, as most people will be aware, she was quite a remarkable lady. She basically collected and sold fossils to these gentlemen scientists.
Yes. Yes. So she went on the beaches looking for these rare creatures, and found an awful lot of amazing
Amazing
fossils,
stuff.
amazing stuff.
And at this point, there was a burgeoning trade in selling curios. So these
Yes.
fossils were
Yeah.
curios; they were
Yeah.
curiosities.
Almost like it was almost like a pilgrimage, I guess. And these were the kind
Well,
of
in the
charms
same
that were
in the same
same
way
way.
now, go to the seaside and buy a stick of rock or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
a
yeah,
kiss me quick hat or whatever.
yeah.
Take back a
So
souvenir.
these were fairly wealthy individuals that would come down and buy these curios for their home or for study. And she found very vast amounts of material, and that's all because the geology in and around the Lyme Regis area was suitable for preserving these incredible fossils.
Absolutely. So, like I said before, we've got the storms barreling in. The structure of the rocks is they dip slightly to the east, and also at Lyme, because we're on sort of like a funny little headland, it it's also they dip slightly to the east and slightly seawards. So of course what we have is this alternating hard and soft rocks with basically this erode in the base. Everything just slumps down in big landslips. So we have fossils almost like on a conveyor belt
Yeah, yeah,
constantly being supplied down onto the beaches. And as the landslips wash away, they reveal more fossils, and then more landslips occur, and it just goes. It's happened for millennia.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Incredible, and that's so many new things for science as well that were found during that
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
all the time.
yeah, absolutely. So 1811, Mary and her brother Joseph actually discovered the first scientifically described ichthyosaurs. Ichthyosaurs were known before that; they were known from elsewhere, but it was the first one that was scientifically described.
First plesiosaurs.
1823,
Yeah,
December into 1824, she found the first complete plesiosaur. So again, bits were known, often found by Mary, and Conybeare had sort of described them. This was the first complete one. She found the first pterosaur,
yeah,
1888, from Britain.
yeah.
They were already known from mid 1700s.
Again, a creature that you would more associate with land
Yeah,
than that must have been flying over flying over the ocean in some way, maybe trying to take some fish, maybe. Um, and then it obviously died and then got down to
They're
the
still one
depths.
of our rarest fossils that we do
Yeah,
get down here
absolutely,
are
yeah. Yeah.
our pterosaurs. It's basically because the bones are so fragile as well.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
lightweight, and basically they can easily get destroyed in the landslipping process.
Well, not only that is the fact that, particularly the bones of the pterosaur are so, to me and you, they're very distinctive, but
Yes,
to the amateur collector, they could easily be missed. They could be
he's
easily
mistaken for just
misidentified.
a bit of fish bone or a scrap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, but they're not common. I think 2 or 3 specimens in the last 100 years have turned up.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think a lot turned up when the area was also quarried. That was another thing I didn't mention. So they
Oh,
were
right,
actually
okay.
quarrying the limestones here, but not from the cliffs, but from the foreshore. So they
Oh,
were lifting
okay.
the limestones off the foreshore,
What were they using them for?
cement.
Oh,
So
okay.
so the beauty about the Lyme Regis limestones is they are the perfect mixture of clay and limestone. So when you roast them, you can make rugby or Portland cement, which is hydraulic cement, which will set underwater.
Right, okay.
So you don't have to do the mixing that you would normally do to create it, where you mix
Yeah, I
clay
didn't know
and
that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
limestone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, of course, lifting the limestone off revealed all the shale,
Yes.
and therefore you're revealing all of the things that where the good preservation is. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it was a combination of that, which was happening when my area was
yeah,
alive.
yeah, and there wasn't as many, I believe that people keep telling me there wasn't as many pebbles at that time either, i.e. the shingle that you see, in Lyme Regis was more,
It's
ballast
got
that came off ships, I believe.
it's got worse since they decided that we want nice sandy beaches here.
Yeah,
They've imported a large amount of sand and pebbles from France, which
yeah,
and also the coastal defence works as well, because you want to protect the town. You put
yeah, yeah, yeah,
groins in. Groins are
yeah,
designed to trap sand and shingle from moving along the coast. So of course it builds up.
yeah, yeah.
So
So I believe in Mary Anning's time, it probably looked different to what it is now. That's what always fascinates me. I'd love to be a time traveler and go back there, and with the knowledge I have now, and go walk those beaches. That'd be quite interesting, I think.
well, interesting you say time travel. I would like to go back now to when I was a kid and go back and look at the beaches with the knowledge I have now about what to look for.
Yeah,
Um, because in that 50 odd years, as you sort of mentioned, I think there there there's been an increase in the number of people who are interested in fossils,
yeah,
who go
yeah,
out looking for fossils.
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's grown dramatically in
Yeah,
that 50 years. I
I
mean,
think
I would be on the
I've
beach.
heard. Well, we might come back to this later, but I think it's grown dramatically since COVID.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Exponentially since
yeah,
COVID, I believe. I've seen it a lot up here in Yorkshire, significantly, which we can come back to later.
yeah.
So what?
We'll come
So
back
what?
to.
Go on. So what kind of things might we find? I think you might have a few things to show
Well,
us.
I've just got a couple of specimens, like you know, your ubiquitous ammonites.
Yeah.
So, I
So
mean, this is your typical.
for those who are not watching us on any product, for those of you listening to in the car, Paul's holding up a nice flat piece of limestone, and it's got two very very nice calcite ammonites on there. And calcite is usually a white mineral, but in this case, it's kind of like a yellow mineral. And these two specimens look like they are Microdorosaurus or
They
Ziphyros.
are. Yeah, they are micro,
Yeah.
but they're both species. There are 2 species.
Okay.
So
So you
there's
can see. So for those who are not viewing this, you can actually see that the actual ornamentation on both of those particular species
is slightly
are
different.
slightly different. So the ornamentation is slightly different on one compared to the other, and that's
And
how
the
it makes
worst
it.
one is always the rarer one. As if
Yeah,
so
yeah,
the one that tends to be nice is the good, is the
yeah,
common
yeah,
one, which
yeah, yeah.
is a thing called Microdrosophis birchi,
So
named
so
after the
obviously that wasn't found like that. I mean, can you just show us the back of the
so
rock?
the back.
So the
This
back
was in
that's kind of like what it would look like when you find it. So it's a kind of like a flat greyish rock that's slightly laminated, and then
so
usually
this is
there's
a classic nodule, a
yeah.
birchi.
That one was actually that particular specimen I can see now from the top. It was actually sticking out the rock.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can see it sticking out the rock. Whereas
yeah,
a lot of the examples you find on the coast aren't sticking out the rock, unlike the ones in
sticking out the rock.
Yorkshire.
So like that.
But yeah, so more of a classic pebble shape, round pebble, and then the ammonites are usually on the inside. Now everybody says, "How did you know it was in there?" I mean, obviously from that one you can see where somebody's cracked it open and had a look inside first, and then glued that part back on, and then prepared it from the other side to reveal the ammonite inside.
Yeah, but in both cases, me. So these are ones.
All right, so they're actually yours that you found.
Well, no,
Yeah,
these are actually the museums because everything I collect that's worthy of coming into the museum comes into the
yeah,
museum,
yeah.
and that's an interesting discussion we can have later about what's worth getting into a museum.
Yes,
But
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah. We'll we'll
um,
we'll go
but
we'll go into that later, I think.
most people say, "Woo,
Rather
what
than
an ugly
talking to me.
ammonite!" But actually, this is where it becomes really interesting because this ammonite has got a huge number of things growing all over the surface, showing that
Oh,
when you
we call those epifauna.
yeah. So
Uh,
this was when it was lying on the seabed. It's been stuff has settled on it. There are
yeah,
oysters, there are
yeah,
bivalves, it's accumulated worms and various other things
yeah. As it was laid on the seabed, and
as
and
it was
I,
laid
I
on the
quite I
sea.
quite like finding. A lot of people don't realise when we actually find a very large section of outer body section of an ammonite. It might be fragmentary or a nautilus. Always look on the inside of that body chamber because actually things can get washed in.
Yeah. Or
Now,
dragged in.
well, I've got one at home that I'm reluctant to do any more prep work to because it's not very big. But I do have an Astoceros with a little tiny fish poking out the aperture. So the fish was actually inside. So the ammonite was resting on the seabed. The soft parts had decayed and are no longer there. And this fish was going inside the aperture like a little home for itself, and probably living in there to get away from predators or whatever. And it died inside the body chamber. And like I say, I'm reluctant to. You can see its head poking out, and I'm pretty sure the body's in there, but I'm
Yeah.
reluctant to do any work on the actual ammonite itself to try and reveal that because that I would have to take away quite a large section of
A
the
large
of the
chunk of
ammonite.
very, very nice ammonite.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So I've left it as it is with just the head of the fish poking out.
But I mean, here sat on my desk, these are things that have come out of my pocket. That because we do fossil walks from the museum. So I've here in Lyme, and one of our things that we do in public engagement is we do a huge number of fossil walks
Yeah,
when the tide's right. So we take the public out. We take about 7,000 people a year out
yeah,
on the beach, members of the
yeah,
public, and we amongst so the Charmouth Heritage Centre also do pretty much the same. There are also private guides doing exactly the sort of same. So when you start totting that up, you're thinking, well, that's probably nearer 20,000 people a year are being
yeah,
taken out on guided fossil hunts here
yeah,
along the Dorset coast. And,
yeah,
on the whole, I think people come away with a fossil. Um,
yeah.
is it something that I would want in the museum? The answer is
Probably not.
probably not.
No,
Would it be something that was commercial? The answer is probably
probably
not.
not.
But is it special to them? And I mean,
Yes.
one of the commonest things we get are these little things called
Yeah,
beeswax ammonites.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you can actually see
Yeah,
the
so
patterns of the ammonite.
these are mainly impressions where ammonites have been on the seafloor, and basically the the sea has broken off the bigger pieces of rock, and left these in the shingle. And these are the most common bits you'll probably end up finding, just like you do in the Jurassic Coast up in Yorkshire. You find parts of ammonites and things like that washed up.
And most people are absolutely thrilled if they do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you may come a lot across like this one and find an impression where somebody's popped a calcite ammonite and
yeah,
that had been left on.
yeah, yeah,
What I've actually picked this up is you can probably see there's a pencil circle, but it's very difficult to see.
yeah.
That's
Very
actually
difficult
an
to see it in
ammonite
there, but
jaw.
it's a what? Sorry.
It's an ammonite jaw apparatus,
Oh, okay. So an aptaki. So
an
part of
aptaki.
the armature of the. It's not like a. It had a beak, but it had these kind of like plate like
But they were like
things that.
think like a parrot's beak,
Yeah.
but
Yes. Yeah.
not and not hard and bony, sort of like soft and softer,
Softer. Softer. Keratinous, probably.
or
Um,
bits of bone, you know, little bits of
Yeah,
waterborne
so
bone.
I mean, these are bits of marine reptile that you can
Yeah,
find. You know, bits of rib and things like that. Occasionally, you might find a single vertebrae, or you might find a pyrite preserved ammonite, or things like that. They're not the biggest specimens that you're going to find, um, but they're still nonetheless very special when you find them.
or one that people do like, which is
Oh yeah, yeah. So that is what's called a coprolite. For those who don't know what a coprolite is, it's I always like telling the kids on my trips, it's high in phosphates, and phosphates only occur through natural bodily processes. So that is what's called a coprolite, and that is fossilized poo.
yeah, copros, the Greek for poo or dung, light or lithic, turned to stone.
And
That's the key
sometimes
thing.
you get very particularly in Dorset, you get some very nice. We're talking about poo now, but you get some very nice coprolites that actually have bits of bone and stuff inside as well, don't you?
So there's one that's actually in a little. These are known as poo stones. They're like little nodules that you get.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
With,
And you've
and
got
I
some
know you
like
get those on the Yorkshire coast too. Exactly the
yeah,
same. Yeah, the little
yeah, yeah,
coprolites inside.
yeah. I mean, to be they might sound gross to people talking about coprolites, but actually they can actually yield an awful lot of information because it's
Oh, absolutely.
showing not only the digestion process that occurs through animals, but also what it was eating and some of the paleoecology that it was surrounded by.
So what's really interesting is when we look at these things, they're usually things like fish scales or other marine reptile bones. Um, Occasionally squid hooklets, because squid have hooklets on the end of their tentacles. One of the ones that people always show in all of the artwork is a marine reptile biting into ammonites and munching up ammonites.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we recently, was it this year or last year, we've got our first coprolite with an ammonite inside it.
Wow, wow, interesting. Yeah, yeah.
So they probably
Is that in the
did,
museum?
yes.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
found.
Is that on display? Is that on display yet? Or
No, it's not, because the trouble is it's really high in pyrite content. So at
oh,
the
okay,
moment,
okay,
it's actually preserved in an oxygen-free environment. So
okay.
one of the problems that we get here on the Dorset coast is a lot of this material is full of the mineral called pyrite, iron
Yes,
sulfide.
yeah.
Unfortunately, iron sulfide really does not like being in atmospheric temperature, conditions, and pressure.
Well, I we have pyrite here as well. I I personally think it's actually the interaction with the chlorine in the water, the seawater, that might interact with the sulfides in some way to start that process. And I
Well,
think it's a chemical reaction.
but
I'm not sure if anybody's investigated that, but
you don't get much pyrite problem in with yours in Yorkshire.
no, but our pyrite is not extensive like yours. It's only
You get like the sheen on the Dactylioceras,
yeah,
don't you?
yeah, because everybody thinks they're pyrite ammonites in Yorkshire, but actually it's only a layer on top of it. So the most common problem we have is when you find one of the what we call cannonballs, which is basically an iron porites coated pebble that looks like a cannonball. That's why I call
Yeah.
them cannonballs, and they can be polished up into a high gloss finish. But I've noticed that if those are fresh,
Yeah.
then they are stable. If they have been touched in any way by the sea, they then start the pyrite process. And that got me thinking that it must be some kind of interaction between what is in the seawater, probably called chlorine or chloride or something like that, that has then interacted with the iron sulfide in some way, probably the sulfides, to create. I'm not entirely sure because I mean geochemistry is not up to speed, but some kind of
Well,
sulfide
well,
chlorine thing
well.
that
I'm
starts the
wondering whether
process.
that's the start of the medium. So as soon as they it must alter the crystal structure in some way, because what we really are sure about is certain crystal structures of pyrite are more stable than
Yeah,
others,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the
But,
essential
I mean,
process is
classic example, Paul, is I do have an Eodorosceras
yeah,
from Dorset that was found in situ, and I've had that for 30, 40 years.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas you could find another one, an Eodorosceras ammonite, on the beaches around in Dorset that is being
Been
free
washed
of
out.
being washed, being coated by the sea, and that can go like within days of you getting it home. And there's in between stages of that as well. So there must be
Oh, I mean,
some
I've
kind of
even collected
process
them
there.
from the same bed, and you'll have two ammonites from the same
Yeah,
bed,
yeah,
and
yeah,
one will go and one won't
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah,
Collected in situ, I've got different species. Some will go more than others,
yeah, yeah,
and it. I mean, the only thing the trouble is, you see, once we have the things in the museum, we are expected to keep them in
yeah. In
perpetuity,
perpetuity, yeah, yeah, yeah,
which can make it tricky because
yeah,
we are stop a natural universe
yeah, yeah,
underlying law that things will change and over time, and we are so it can be quite tricky and quite challenging. And so anyway, so to go back to the pyrite, I mean, the easiest way is to store them without access to oxygen
yeah,
or water vapor.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And most people can do this at home. Most people have got, I say most people, quite a lot of people have got vacuum sealers.
yeah.
You know,
Petroleum
you like
jelly,
you,
petroleum
you,
jelly as well.
you
Uh,
go down to Leddles, you go and buy a vacuum sealer that you do your food in, put it in there, seal it up. You can still look at it, you can cut it open and have it out. But if you've got an oxygen scavenger and silica gel to look at the moisture, you're giving it its best chance.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because you're
yeah.
and it's a relatively cheap way of
I mean,
doing it.
the best ones though, realistically, on the Dorset coast are the calcite ammonites because they don't
Well, absolutely.
have any problem.
We just saw that one. The calcite
Yeah,
ammonites
and you can get
can be
some
absolutely
quite
stunning.
nice small ones occasionally on the beach as well.
Yeah,
Calcite ones. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but most of it you don't need to actually do anything other than walk along the beach and look with your fingers and with your eyes and pick up with your fingers.
yeah, yeah. So we're probably going into what the next section was going to be talking about is the museum life, and you said that a typical day looks like um, preserving the specimens and doing the outreach as well with the school parties. What other things do you do during the day?
Well, no 2 days are the same.
No,
Okay,
no,
so that's the one beauty about museum life. And I mean, I've been working in museums now probably 35 years. I sort of found my niche really.
yeah, yeah,
Museums are what I was. We were talking about talents and things.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
talent is for managing collections and looking after specimens. So after coming sort of out of academia and postdocs and teaching and lecturing and things, I sort of got into museums and sort of like found my groove and ended up at the Natural History Museum for umpteen years.
Yeah.
And I was registrar there. So I was basically looking after all of the procedures and processes and policies about how we look after specimens,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
where my natural aptitude was. It just clicked in my brain, as it were. So no 2 days can. One day I can be cataloguing specimens. Another day I can be putting an exhibition in. Another day I can be doing a fossil walk. Another day I can be doing a podcast to you. I could be
Yeah.
doing a TV interview. I could be
Yeah. Yeah.
writing an academic paper. I could,
Yeah. Yeah.
every single day is sort of different.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I could be moving this collection around. I could be humping big, heavy boxes. I could
Yeah.
be
And
organising a fossil
setting up new
festival.
exhibitions and having uh, an idea of what your next exhibition might be. So you're working towards that as well.
Yeah, well, we try. We try. I mean, the thing about Lyme Regis Museum, it is small. It's a
Yes.
small museum. It's there are. I think we worked out that there's about four of us equivalent full time. So we have a director, we have an education officer, we have me as doing the geology curation, we have, I mentioned the education officer, we have a finance and admin assistant, and we have the ladies who manage the admissions and the front desk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have a marketing officer as well, and that's it. But we're all sort of part time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then we bring in people to help us do the fossil walk. So we have like guides that we
Yeah.
employ on like freelance basis to
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
in and help us do the walks and things. So we're a really small team, but we are. I mean, we are lucky because we have the USP of fossils
Yeah.
in Lyme Regis,
Yeah.
and we're in a tourist town which has a larger number of tourists. We're doing better than most local museums.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, you do hear. I mean, particularly during the financial crisis, you did hear about a lot of provincial museums, struggling financially, and
Yeah,
a
even
few, a
big
few, a
museums.
few did close, and then obviously you then worry about where those collections then go to, which is generally to a larger museum who then might not have storage for it and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
you do
absolutely.
hear stories like that, don't you? So I mean you're quite lucky because you do have um, patron patronage
Yeah,
at the museum as well, don't you? So you do have the friends of the
Lyme
museum
Regis
who,
Museum.
who are
The
people.
tour de force is the
Yeah,
answer I would
yeah,
use.
the private individuals that um, will help out from time to time.
Yeah, well, the whole idea with the friends was set up by because I mean, looking at Lyme history, I mean, we did actually have in its incept famous geologists who were curators. It was been voluntary for a large portion of its history. So we go back to early after it was founded. We had Wingrave, Wyatt Wingrave, who has an ammonite named after him, Oxynotissus wingravii, and we had William Dixon Lang, who was the former uh, keeper of geology at the Natural History Museum, British Museum,
Yeah, yeah,
Natural History as it was then, because he retired to Charmouth.
yeah, yeah,
And he was
yeah,
an expert on the geology here, and he was one of our curators. And then we've had various voluntary ones until we got John Fowles, author of The French Lieutenant's Woman, The Magi, a big literary sort of person. And John set up the Friends to basically support the museum through
yeah,
fundraising.
yeah, 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 yeah. And that has helped out. I know that you were successful in. There was a letter from Mary Anning that recently went up for auction, and you were successful in
Well, yeah, in a rapidly short period of time. So one of my sad things that I do in the morning is I sit down with a cup of coffee and I look through all of the auctions. I get all
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
for anything that might be of interest for the museum.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
one, I mean, I have Hanning set up as one of the alerts,
Yeah.
and
Well, I do as well. So I clocked it straight away.
yeah. So you like me, you probably like me fell off your chair and went, "Blimey!" And Mary
Yeah.
Hanning
Yeah. Yeah. No, I saw it and I thought, oh, okay, right. That's interesting. And I remember, I think it was probably about 5 years ago, another one selling
yes.
as well.
So a complete one went through in 2021, I think it was.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
really interesting because it had talk about a plesiosaur and things in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that went for just a swidge over 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this one is only sort of two sentences and a signature.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's been cut. So it was obviously an autograph hunter
Yeah. Yeah.
who
Yeah.
got a letter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a feel we're now thinking we might know where that letter has come from.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah.
Where in terms of there is a missing series of correspondence from Mary Anning that's never turned up.
Right. Okay.
So she was in correspondence with a young lady called Anna Maria Pinney. And Anna Maria Pinney published a journal, and two extracts from Mary Anning's letters to her appear in her journal in the
Yeah.
1850s.
Yeah.
However, all of the letters from Mary were supposed to go back to Mary when Anna died. Anna wasn't expected to live. She was quite sickly, which is why she was coming to Lyme Regis and met Mary. She was coming
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
take the waters and, recuperate. And
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
wasn't expected to outlive, but she did. Mary died before her. So the letters disappeared.
Right.
And
Okay.
uh, given the nature of the stuff that they wrote about, they didn't write about fossils. And
Yeah. Yeah.
this letter is not about fossils.
Yeah. 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 Interesting. Interesting. But I mean, the most important thing about that is the fact that things like that are realistically national treasures.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
hence why you did your best to obtain that back
And we
into the
did.
museum.
And we did. And I think that was it. It, it was a double-edged sword. We had to do a lot of publicity around it, and by doing a lot of publicity, you make more people aware of it,
Yes.
which could technically push the price up.
Yes.
But we can't raise the money without doing the publicity. So,
No. No. No.
and,
Double-edged
and,
sword.
and actually, I think this time it put people off. I think what
Yeah.
happened was people would have looked at it and gone, actually, the museum is the best. Like you just said, it's a
Yeah.
national
Yeah.
treasure. It should really
Yeah.
be in a
Yeah.
museum.
Yeah.
And, we were serious about raising it. And it may have put people off who may have normally have tried to acquire it,
Yeah.
knowing that we were serious about trying to acquire
Yeah.
it. So, you know, I think it actually worked in our favour, but it could have gone the
Yeah.
opposite way and pushed the
Yeah. No.
price up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think I think it was only like about £4,000 to £5,000, something like that. The estimate.
The estimate, yeah,
And yeah, I mean, when I saw it, I thought, well, this is going over 10
yeah,
straight
yeah,
away,
yeah.
because of the just because of the interest. I mean, obviously that negates me anyway. Um, but
But
I
it
can't
does
afford that.
negate. Well, it's like the last. There was one that went through, and it was bought by a hedge fund
Yeah,
as an
yeah,
investment. So it
yeah,
just sits in a bank
yeah.
vault.
Well, I know there's an awful lot of interest in Asia and the Middle East. That they're always setting up new museums, and I thought, well, I thought that particular piece, if there was somebody at, they would that would be the likely other place that it would probably ended up with. Um, so I was just glad to see from the. I mean, anybody can go on the internet now and follow the story on BBC or anything. But I'm just glad now that it's now secured for the museum.
Yeah, because there are so few letters. I mean, it's one of. I
Yeah,
mean, there are 40. Oh, crikey! I think 47 letters, or
yeah,
partial letters, or
yeah,
signature fragments and things. but that's it. There's so little that we have about piecing her life together, which is obviously 200 years ago, and she was a poor working class girl from Dorset,
Yeah, 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 an incredible woman,
but an
really.
incredible businesswoman.
Yeah, 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 exactly as well. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. Well, we'll get on to the next stage now. Part of the museum life, like you were saying, you're doing fossil walks and what have you, and then that has progressed on to the Lyme Regis Fossil Festival.
Yeah. So
So it kind of like you're doing small things, but then it's kind of spiraled out into probably one of the biggest events that the area has had for a long while. And to be fair, for many years, it was a very very small event, run by a very small unit of people. And I was always interested in us, and I always kept saying, this could be a big venue, a big event for the local area that could because it's not just the fossils, but it's also the ancillary uh, n- uh, not byproducts of all that. So like the accommodation, the restaurants, the
yeah.
the whole community. It's a it, for me. Although I know Dorset a little bit, it's kind of like there's like a I'm always fascinated by this when I come down is um there's the world outside of Dorset, and then the way it should be, and then sometimes it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm all right. I don't want any business in my shop, and it's like, well, what are you on about? Um, people. The last time I came down, it was one particular. I won't name the place, but there was one particular place that was clearly owned by somebody who'd retired and just wanted a coffee shop, but actually didn't really want to serve any customers. And it was like, what's going on there? But outside of that, the Lyme Regis Fossil Festival is a big event now. It brings in thousands of people every year.
Oh yeah. I
Uh,
mean, it's sort of come full circle. Back in, when would it have been, 2000 or 2005, when I was working at the Natural History Museum, we were called in by the World Heritage team, as it was then,
yeah, yeah,
to look at the interpretation of the World Heritage Coast. And basically, we were going along all the different places, thinking how we could link all this together and tell the story and get tourism involved and
yeah,
get people involved in geology. So I was sat with the guys from the Lyme Regis Museum, and I said, "Well, what you really need is a fossil festival.
yeah, yeah,
A fossil roadshow was what I was thinking in my head, a bit
yeah,
like
yeah,
an antique
yeah,
roadshow. You have
yeah,
events, you have things happening." And they said, "Oh, that's a good idea." So we basically ran with it. Me at the NHM, and then latterly people like Jackie Skipper at the NHM, basically worked with the guys from Lyme to develop the festival. And it grew quite well up to round about 2010, 2011, 2012. And
yeah,
it
yeah,
sort of like reached a sort of peak. It was big, it was hugely engaging, there was a big diversity, but it's then sort of like went into a bit of decline. And I think it's the natural lifespan for most events. You start an event and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you have to do more and more. It's what's called the Red Queen. You have to run faster and faster to stay in the
yeah,
same
yeah.
place.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
from Alice through the Looking Glass. So you get to this point, and you're starting to have to raise more and more money and do more and more things just to stay in exactly the same place. And so, if you're not careful, you do get that natural tail off and decline.
yeah, yeah,
And by the
yeah,
time COVID came along in
yeah,
2020,
yeah, yeah,
it almost killed it off.
yeah, yeah,
The people who were organising it were the development trust here in the town, and they said, "Look, this is not our core business. It's not nothing. We like it, but we are financially struggling." And they said, "We're going to cut it." And so by that stage, here's the full circle. I'd gone from the Natural History Museum to Lyme, and
yeah,
now
yeah,
I end up being involved in saying, well, we can't let it go, and the museum should probably take the lead, and that's what we did. So we started again, and we're doing that building up, and we're getting to the point now where we're going, actually, when you're saying about visitors, we probably have in the region of 15,000 visitors over a weekend coming in and engaging with the Fossil Festival, which is a fascinating. In fact, it's the largest free event, paleontological event, fossil event in the world, because everything else is charged for.
Yeah. And it's not. It's like I said, you've not just got the paleontology aspects, like the outreach. You're teaching families about paleontology, teaching them about science, and all that side. But you've also got those people then are going to want some food. They're going to need accommodation. They're going to need car parking. They're going to need, all the infrastructure there as well around it, the support structure around it. So I mean, it's a fantastic event. I mean, if anybody is available in June,
13th and 14th of June.
13th and 14th of June, please do attend, because it is a fantastic event. And like I say, particularly I find that what I like the most about it is the fact that it's a cross section through the ages. So you're not just got the academics come in with, like the Naturalist Museum come in and showing
It's not
things.
just the geeks like me and you who
No,
are
it's
pitching
not.
up to it.
No,
You've got
no. There is geeks
families.
like me and you there.
Yeah, we've got the geeks, but
we've got the geeks,
it's
but
not just a geek fest.
But there's an awful lot of events for the children, and to engage them from putting the phones down and actually engaging with science, which is the most important thing I
So
feel.
there's every aspect of it. There's from entertainment or edutainment, if you want to call it, through to art things, through to family friendly things. There are talks, there are activities, there's the shopping areas in the marquees, and we do take it all over the town. The only thing we charge for are the headline talks in the Marine Theatre. And that's basically because, the amount of money that we have to raise to put this on every year is tens of thousands of pounds. So in this case, that's the only bit that we charge for. Everything else is pretty much free. I always say there are natural places where, if we're talking fossil collecting in the UK, you've got Dorset, you've got Yorkshire, you've got the Isle of Wight. There are other places too, but they're not. How do I put it? It's not sort of integral into their being. It's sort of like woven to the fabric of.
I mean, if you were to pick anywhere, I guess anywhere in the world that's renowned for its fossils, you'd put it in Lyme Regis.
Yeah, it's in every book. You get tourists from all over the world. People come to Lyme Regis.
Yeah, I mean, I go to a lot of fossil shows, trade shows, and we go to one that's called Saint-Marie aux Mines, which is in France, in the Alsace region, and that basically is run by the people in the town, and they close off the roads and put tents in the streets and everything, and it's kind of like. I would say if you're into fossils and crystals and minerals, especially minerals and crystals, it's kind of like Glastonbury, but for rocks and minerals. And that I thought was when you said you're going to start doing a festival there again. That's why obviously I got involved and came down as a stall holder and now a sponsor. Is because I could see that was the place for it to be, and it could even be bigger than it is now. You don't want it bigger than it is now, but it could be.
I mean, we struggle. We are not far off what I would say would be capacity for the town.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because as soon as you go above that, then you start
It's the infrastructure, isn't it? Then
It's the infrastructure. The town can't cope with 50,000 people coming in on a
No,
day.
no, no,
You
no.
just don't have the roads, you don't have the parking, you
Yeah,
don't have
yeah,
the
yeah,
facilities to cope with that numbers. And
yeah.
where we are now is about where it's starting anymore, and it would start to feel a bit uncomfortable, I think,
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah. But I mean,
detract from the event.
I mean, it was very, very busy last year. Obviously we had the weather
Yeah.
uh, for the past
Well,
2
I
years.
always arrange that specially. You know that, don't you? But
Yeah, 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 yeah. Talk to him upstairs and say,
well, yeah, I get on the hotline.
yeah,
I have
yeah,
a
yeah.
special phone.
But no, I mean, it is actually a fantastic event, and if anybody is in that local area
Yeah,
or coming to visit, um, and that
have a look on the festival website.
yeah,
Fossilfestival.org is site.
and that'll give you the program as well of all
It
the
does.
different activities, all the different events. You know, there's films, there's talks, there's um,
Yeah. Ev-
yeah,
ed- ed-
anything and anything you
anything,
can think
anything
of.
you can think of.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
even get yourself a dinosaur flavor or a themed waffle from the Waffle House. You know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's a absolutely fantastic, event.
Yeah, brilliant.
Um,
It is. It is very good.
yeah, let's move on from the Fossil Festival. Like I say, if you wanna go, please do go. You'll see both of us there. Paul will be looking a little bit more frazzled than I will, but it is very, 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 very
Well,
busy.
you're in the marquee. It'll be nice and warm in the marquees this year.
Oh
Again,
God,
I've
fingers
organised
crossed.
the weather.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but the last section I wanna talk about, before we get into the quickfire round is the future of paleontology. You know, if any people are listen to this, we've got two, I would say, experts maybe in different avenues in paleontology. Um, if they were to get, if people were thinking about getting into paleontology, what do you think they should do these days, and what do you think is the future? You know, where do you see it going?
Well, okay. So, how do you get into it? Two things. It depends on whether you're an academic route or the non-academic route.
Yes,
And if you'd have asked me this question 50 years, there was only one route. It was an academic
yes,
route.
yes, yeah.
Today, that's not true. So you do not have to go and get a degree in geology or zoology or paleontology or whatever to
No.
go um, into fossils. And and you can do it from the vocational aspect of being exceptionally good at what you do, and a large number of people are.
Yes,
They are considered experts in their field
yes,
of some aspect of paleontology because they've done it through doing rather than being trained to do it. If you see what I
yes,
mean.
yeah, 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 and, yeah, quite.
So never be put off by the fact that, oh, I haven't got my O levels or my A levels and I didn't go to university. These
Yeah, I
days,
mean, your enthusiasm and, the knowledge base can take you a long way, and there's other avenues available to you, you know, like there's a lot of, scientific outreach, a lot of scientific communication with schools and things like that, which can help you through that process as well. You don't have to just go right. Okay, I need to do a PhD. I need to do a doctorate. I need to be a professor. I need to do this. There's other avenues available to everybody, and
yeah,
everybody learns differently as well.
yeah. So so that's my thing. Never be put off because you can become an expert in something
Yeah,
by just
I know an awful lot of amateur collectors that are very specific in their field of
yeah,
where they collect. A prime example of that is Steve Etchers,
yes. So
uh,
yeah,
who who has the museum
absolutely.
down the road from you.
Yeah,
An amateur collector who knows an awful lot about the Kimmeridgian.
yeah. Because that's where he was based, that's what he collected. He'd done it for,
Absolutely.
50 plus years. And, okay, Steve has got a brain as well. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but I also often think about professional collectors, because we have a large proportion
Yes.
of professional
Yeah, yeah,
collectors down
yeah.
here, and many of those are from the non-academic route. We do have
Yes,
some through the academic route, but many are through the non-academic route, and they know the fossils from here because they live and
they've
breathe
done it.
them every
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, they will go, well, that's really unusual or different, or they will
yeah,
spot things,
yes,
and whether they go on to publish them or work with people to publish them, that's quite often what happens.
yes. Yeah, 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 absolutely. I mean, where I mean, obviously, the classic example, I think, particularly when I was a student, um, the route was, you did your undergraduate degree, and then you dug something out of the ground, and then you did the research on it, and then you published it in a paper, and it just went on from there.
Yeah.
But that's not really the kind of that's more kind of like very old fashioned way of looking at paleontology now. But there is other ways.
And again, it's come full circle. You go back to the Victorian period,
Yeah,
most of the paleontologists that we know as household names were not employed as paleontologists and were not through that academic paleontology.
yeah,
They became experts in
yeah,
their, so Mary Anning knew as much as the experts
yes,
and worked with them because she recognised, oh, these are ink sac from squid. Oh,
yeah,
these are coprolites.
yes,
Or you look at somebody like Ethelred Bennett, who worked in Wiltshire,
yes.
dedicated collector. You look at, oh gosh, there's so many of them through the Victorian. My mind's getting swamped with them all. Well, I won't go through all of them, but they became the expert in a thing through through basically living and breathing it. You've got
Yeah, yeah,
people up in Whitby.
yeah.
What's his name?
Uh,
George Young. George
George
Young.
Young. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Who set up the Whitby Museum?
Whitby Museum.
Yeah, Reverend as well. He was a reverend.
Yes. So, well, most of them were trained as
Yeah,
clerics. You see.
yeah. But yeah, I kind of see that a better working relationship between academics and amateur collectors is for me the way forward. And
And actually, that's often a misunderstanding. I, often I see misunderstandings between the two from not what's the word I'm looking for? Not understanding sometimes the process. So as an amateur, you found something that's really nice and rare, and for you it's all consuming and it's high up there on your priority list. But when you're an academic and you have a to-do list about 400 pages
yeah,
long,
yeah, yeah,
it might not be at the top of
yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's usually, oh God, they've had it for years or they've not published it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Often that can cause a souring of relationships, but it can take years to get a paper through
Yes,
um,
yeah.
and published.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And you don't, like I say, you don't always have to have them published. I can see certainly technology taking over. Certainly in paleontology. I mean, you're getting a lot of things that now you're finding the item, but then you can scan them in certain ways. MRI scans and different photography and stuff like that, and you can then 3D print them and so you don't actually physically have to have the item in front of you sometimes to do the research. You can just have the download the zip file and then 3D print it, and you've got the
Well,
item in front of
we're
you.
doing we're doing exactly the same. So
Yeah,
sometimes we will scan an item, 3D
yeah,
scan an item,
yeah,
and print it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then print in the collection.
yeah, yeah,
Um, you know, because this is a really nice example. For example, an ichthyosaur, a really nice ichthyosaur. Well,
yeah.
we can't afford on the commercial market
No,
to buy those.
no,
We that's the one thing where there is a, a bit of a disparity between the museums and the financial, the professional world, in that they do have a commercial value, but we can't afford
Yeah. Yeah.
to buy them, which
Yeah.
is a shame. But I think that's interesting how funding agencies view
Yes. Yeah. No,
fossils.
it's different. I think each individual world country in the world has its own different rules and regulations on commerciality. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast
We could do a whole new podcast on that.
talking about the commerciality in fossils. I mean, whenever I work with museums, I never give them the full value, obviously retail value, but I say, look, it has taken me 10 hours of preparation work at £25 an hour.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how I work it. So there is an with any fossil there is an inherent cost, whether it's the preparation or whatever, and that you can't really then justify somebody saying, well, we want, and
yeah.
you say, well,
I
it's
mean,
taken me 10 hours.
I mean, we wouldn't survive really without getting donations in,
Yes.
and to be honest, you know, a lot of the things that we get in aren't really valuable commercially because they are
No.
scientifically
It,
the scientifically interesting stuff tends to be really ugly,
yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
therefore has a reduced commercial value.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, it's just might be a fragment of something. It doesn't have to be a
Yeah,
full ammonite. It could just be a fragment of ammonite,
yeah.
or
So,
or a little tiny tiny dot of something. And
a commercial, you know,
yeah,
your
yeah, it looks
commercial
pretty.
world,
Looks
that
pretty. Yeah.
wouldn't have been worth the cost of preparing it for what you wouldn't get the cost of preparation back on the
No,
sale of this.
no.
And as soon as you saw all these horrible things all over it, you'd go,
Uh,
okay,
yeah, bin it. Yeah,
yeah, it'll go in the to do later pile.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And but because I'd spotted it and found it and realised that all those interesting things, I could then afford to spend the time preparing
yeah, yeah.
it. But again, if somebody had brought us the split nodule and said, "Well, do you
There it
want
is.
it?" I'd
Yeah,
go, "Actually, yes," and it's cost them nothing other than
yeah, 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 yeah,
and if we give them a fiver for the nodule, then that would be a good deal all round because it just
yeah, yeah,
offset.
yeah, yeah. But
Um,
down in Lyme Regis, you do, if anybody does find something of scientific importance, you do have a process involved in
we
actually.
do.
You've got
So
a recording
it
scheme, haven't you?
Yeah, just for West Dorset, so it covers from Axmouth to Hive Beach. So Hive Beach is the other side of Burton Bradstock, where you get
Okay.
the Axmouth covers up to the Triassic. There's not really much in the Triassic, but it covers all of the Jurassic section.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah,
that section of coast is covered with the West Dorset Fossil Recording Scheme. And this was set up when the World Heritage Site was created because it was recognised that this is the place that you get a lot of important things. However, as with most fossil collecting, ownership isn't very clear. Things on a beach are still owned by somebody, whether they've ever made a claim on it or not. They are, they're not free to take, as it were. They are actually owned by somebody. Most places, most people, and most landowners don't give a monkeys, but it
yeah,
was worth setting up something here in a very small confined area where you could do it. So the old idea about the scheme is if it is rare or scientifically important, you must record it. And if you do that, the legal ownership transfers to you. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot more nuances to the code than
yeah.
that, but
And
this is
what's the initial process of that? Where do people go to do that? Do they go
so. What
online,
you
or
can do is you
is
can
there a
download
point
a
of
form
contact?
from the Charmouth Heritage Centre website, and you fill in the details and send some photographs. But you would need to know that it was rare or unusual
Yeah,
first. So
yeah,
you've
quite.
obviously made contact with either us at the museum or the guys at the Heritage Centre in Charmouth, or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah,
enough knowledge to know that it's unusual. Um, and the rest of things can be what are called category 2 specimens, which are voluntary recorded. That's great in that it gives us data, but there's no compulsion to do it. And essentially, the landowners have signed up and said, look, we understand fossil hunting is integral down here, but we just want you to record the scientifically important ones. Basically, so we've got the data, we know where the specimen is, and it can be passed to the relevant experts should they ever need to come and have a look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
It's not about taking
and
specimens
and
off
making
people.
making sure that if you see anything in the cliff face, you need to record. You need to make somebody aware of that, and not actually go and dig in it because that's illegal
Yes, so
without permission.
that's the other
And
thing as
and
well.
it's only
So
really then
anything that is
loose
loose,
loose pebbles. Yeah,
or in the landslip, you're allowed to dig out. Anything that's actually in situ is protected. You can get permission to extract, but you've got to get permission to
yeah,
extract
yeah, yeah,
because you can't just go and hack the cliff to try and find fossils. You've
yeah,
got to
yeah.
have found something that's
And
worthy
and
of
and and that
extraction.
and that edu- and that educating the people to do that in a safe and responsible manner. That's partly why that came in, and also why you do the fossil trips
Yeah,
to educate those
it's all
people.
linked up. That's the
Yeah,
education.
yeah.
You know, our thing on our walks is really you don't need a hammer.
No,
You don't need a hammer
no.
here. You can find enough without a hammer. We will show you how to safely use a hammer, but it is knowing about it's not randomly hitting everything you see in front of you. You've got to learn what to hit because only certain things are worth hitting.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you are
yeah,
randomly hitting rocks like you've been employed at the prison service on a
yeah,
chain gang.
yeah, 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 yeah. And you see. I mean, I saw that yesterday on a fossil trip. Just people randomly hitting rocks everywhere, and it's I said to the people on the tour, I said, "Well, they clearly haven't been on one of my tours before."
Yeah, yeah, and you learn.
And also, people underneath the cliff,
Yes,
pecking away at the cliff, and I did politely tell them that the the rockfall that was a couple of hundred yards away came down overnight, and remind them of that, and then said, "You do realise all the best fossils are in the loose pebbles on the beach,
yes,
not in the cliff face."
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, it's trying to
So
educate.
that's all about the education, and I mean we're lucky in that respect that we have that sort of that code which links the academics with the people finding the
Yeah,
fossils.
yeah, yeah,
Um, you know,
I think some kind of national recording scheme would be interesting to implement at some
it's
stage. I think
well, it
it might be
we
difficult in certain areas, but there's
I mean,
nuances. Nuances.
yeah,
Well, I mean, we've talked to this about length, but privately anyway.
yeah,
Yeah,
but it's really interesting because North Norfolk are now at this moment, coming up very shortly, they're talking about have a fossil recording scheme in
yeah,
North Norfolk,
yeah, yeah,
certainly for all of the important Quaternary, Pleistocene sort of sites along the
yeah,
North Norfolk coast. So
yeah,
they're talking about setting up their own recording scheme. Um, there are places where it would be really beneficial, so like Yorkshire or the Isle of
yeah,
Wight or
yeah,
Sheppey or South Wales, or
yeah,
there are a number of places which uh, the logistics of doing it nationally will be tricky. It
yeah,
would be
yeah,
incredibly
yeah, and the
tricky.
funding and what have you. I mean, we're
And
not
one
saying
of
to people at this point um, that we're stopping collecting. What we're saying is if you find something sorry, if you find something of scientific importance when you're in those locations, where do you go? Who do you go to get that looked at properly? I mean, obviously in Yorkshire at the minute, people might take them to the Whitby Museum, but then they send people down to see me to identify
yeah,
it for them. And I've had at least 3 specimens put on my desk where I've gone, "Right, okay, these are scientifically important things, and these are the people you need to go and see." I always remember the day that Nick Hannigan came in with his dinosaur and plonked it on my desk and said, "I found this in the South Wales beach. what I don't think it's marine reptile. What is it? And I said, well, I know exactly what that is. It's marine. It's a theropod dinosaur, and these are the people you need to go and talk to. You need to go and see Cindy. You need to do this. You need to see Dave Martell, and you need to go and see these people because this is a very important specimen. And that obviously then went on to being
The
Draco Raptor,
holotype.
whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
holotype. Yeah, a one-off specimen, and that's on display at the in the Cardiff Museum. And then little things like, pterosaur bones and a few other things that have come my way. But it's having that point of contact, I think, in those particular areas, whether it's a museum or whether it's an individual or, like almost like the recording scheme that they've got in archaeology as such. So they've got in certain areas they've got officers.
Yeah, they do. They have what called finds liaison officers. And so, it would be fantastic to have the same idea of having finds liaison officers placed in museums or various places around the country where people can go. Because let's be honest, not everything would need recording, but sometimes
No.
you just need somebody who can help you identify stuff. And I mean, you're
Yeah,
fortunate
yeah,
that you've got a good working relationship with the museum.
yes.
I mean, Whitby Museum doesn't have a full-time geologist on the
Yeah, no, they have Roger Osborne who does it part time, and there's a couple of other people who are enthusiasts, and occasionally they phone me up and I go over and
yeah,
help them do a few bits and bobs.
or like like even here, I'm not full-time. I'm,
No,
3 days a week, and
yeah,
fortunately we've got an education officer who can
yeah,
identify stuff, and we've got the guides as well. And then you've got the Charmouth Heritage Centre. They're at least fully manned, you know, when they're open. They're not open every day in the winter, but in the summer,
yeah,
then
yeah.
there will be somebody there who will be able to help with the finds and things and
Yeah, I
record.
mean I mean, like I said, not everything is of scientific value. There's lots of ammonites in museums. They don't need any
Yeah,
more.
no,
But it's just those one-off interesting items, like you say, a friend David Grucock came in with a split nodule, and it had basically the shoulder girdle of a pterosaur inside,
oh my God,
and
that's amazing.
therefore, sorry,
That's amazing.
yeah, and
What
and so
from up on the Yorkshire coast?
on the Yorkshire coast, yeah. So that particular, so I said to David, look, this is what I think it is. I think it's pterosaur. It's not fishbone. It's not. Is it actually pterosaur? So I think you need to contact Dave Martell down in Portsmouth because he knows more about pterosaurs than the person I know that knows pterosaurs. And he did, and it turned out to be a completely new species, and got written up as a paper, and that was an incredible find, really. And he basically just walked in the shop and plonked it in front of me and said, "I don't know what it is. What is it?" Um, and
But
that
a scheme would have enabled. There would have been a mechanism for that. So,
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I
and
mean, the
and
the
and
only
now,
mechanism at the minute is if I'm on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and I see somebody who's found something, I might then privately message somebody and say, "Look, I think that might be quite important. You need to go and take it to these people or that people or the other." Most of the time, it's a Gryphea, it's a Belemnite, a bit of an Ammonite, but very occasionally, there's a piece that comes up that is of scientific value.
well, to give you some idea, that that's how many we're talking about. We take about 7,000 people out over the last 5 years. We have probably had 10 specimens that we've asked to be donated and have been donated to the museum that
Yeah,
have
yeah,
been found
yeah,
on.
yeah,
So that gives you some sort of idea. So that's 5 years of 35,000 people looking and finding
yeah, yeah,
fossils.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And there are 10 items that were worth coming into the museum.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It's rare. And we ask, and the people don't have to donate them. They've been very kind to donate things to us. but that's one thing.
Particularly if it's part of something else you've got in the museum, like
Oh,
like the
now
crocodile,
you see, now
there.
there's you've opened up another whole can of
Oh, okay.
worms here
But yeah.
about. Now here's an interesting one, okay? Because things come out of the cliffs and they fall apart, they're in the landslip.
Yes. Yeah.
You can end up with one specimen, which may be like a complete marine
Yeah.
reptile
Yeah.
or a complete dinosaur or something, owned by multiple people. And I've just seen this over the last few months on Facebook, where it's obviously that it's a complete shark with the skin and the teeth and things
Right. Wow. Yeah.
has come out at Stonebarrow. Currently, it's all been brought together and is on display at the Heritage Centre in Charmouth. But like there's 6 or 7 bits owned by 6 or 7 different people.
Yeah. Wow.
Now,
Yeah.
if you've got a scheme, it works because we know that these bits are all linked.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can make that link in the documentation of the scheme and you know who's got them.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you haven't got a scheme,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
somebody's taken the shoulder girdle to you of that pterosaur.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's taken the snout down to Scarborough Museum.
Yeah.
Somebody's popped back to their local museum
Yeah.
in Warwick,
Yeah.
and with the pelvis and the legs.
Yeah.
And it could have been all in a series of nodules that came out, and different people have
Yeah.
found it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. In this particular case, you could tell that it was an
It
isolated
wasn't.
material, but yeah, I take your point. Yeah, absolutely. It could have been, and it could have been in different collections, and you would never, I mean, obviously, I know I have a part of the plesiosaur, and I know that there was parts of that plesiosaur that were in other private collections, which unfortunately they wanted to keep those bits. But with a recording scheme, you would then still have access to that,
You know where
and,
it
now
is.
with 3D printing, you could then just maybe borrow that item and then 3D print it to make it with, to go with the rest of the skeleton.
So I
Um,
mean, we've got a plesiosaur, a rare Pliensbachian plesiosaur that that somebody had found, and it was in situ. Donated it to, said, I've taken it out because it was at risk.
yeah,
Donated it to us.
yeah,
By the time we went back 3 days later, it it was covered over with shingle. But in the interim, somebody from Belgium found the remainder of it and has taken the bit to Belgium.
wow, yeah,
So we've got, which would probably be a new species of, or probably even a new genus of plesiosaur. But unfortunately, there's some key bits in private hands in Belgium. So, but we know where it is, like you
through
said,
the
and
ro-
we
because it's been
replica
recorded,
because it's been recorded,
right?
because they
Yeah,
get
yeah,
permission to extract in situ. Because I hadn't contacted them to say we've got this, because it was a couple of days later, because we were going to go back and get the rest. It was one of those complete mess ups,
yeah,
where, even with the recording scheme, it still sort of messed up a little bit,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
that's my fault
yeah,
for not telling them immediately we got it.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean this is probably one of our we've been chatting for so long. It's been probably one of our longest podcasts. So we'll go on to the quick fire round, and
Quick
then
fire.
we'll finish up
Is
and
there any
let you get on with
prizes?
it. Sorry.
Are there any prizes for the quick fire round?
No, unfortunately not. No, but
Uh,
yeah, I always try and give. It's just obviously clickbait. It's just clickbait for the clips,
okay,
and but I always try and make sure that there's some different questions.
okay.
Maybe one that's the same every time, but I always try and keep it the same. So we've got a quick fire round. It might not be one word answers, but we'll give it a go. So what's your favorite fossil of all time?
Oh, are you talking one that I've found, or any
No,
fossil ever?
any, ever.
Any fossil ever? Uh,
It could be the most important specimen ever found. It could be the first one ever found. It could be
the
any
one,
fossil.
the ichthyosaur with the skin outlines from Holtzmarden, the
Yeah,
same age as
yeah,
yours,
yeah,
Holtzmarden, the Upper Lias.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. How true that skin outline is, or how much has been
yeah,
carved?
yeah. I mean, I mean, particularly with the Holtzmann ones, the ones that fascinate me the most are the pregnant ones, the ones where
Yeah,
you can see the babe that is actually in the process of giving birth, and you can see the babies inside the cavity, and
yeah,
ones that have already been birthed, and they are just incredible, very sad, but incredible specimens.
yeah.
Right.
I saw one from here, a pregnant one from here the other day, actually,
Yeah,
which is
there
I've
is
seen
an
that.
example of a Yorkshire one as well, I believe as well, and I think that's in private hands, I believe, but I think Dean's actually seen that and
Yeah,
described
because
it.
that was the one that was it in the nodule that
Yeah,
was
it was
cut.
kind of sliced, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, ichthyosaur or plesiosaur? See, I'm putting you on the spot now with these questions, aren't I?
You are. Which do I prefer?
Yeah, which do you
Ich
prefer?
Ichthyosaur, only because I think they look well designed.
I see what you're on about. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not sure what
Plesiosaurs look like a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'd prefer either. To be fair, I mean, obviously the classic is the ichthyosaur because that's just what you more often find than the other one. But I have found bits of plesiosaur, and they are quite funky when you find those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about which visually as
visually,
an
yeah,
animal,
yeah,
I
yeah.
like the look of it.
The more adequately designed for going through the water
Yeah.
for a
I
start.
mean, what the hell have you done? You've got a round blobby thing, stuck four paddles, and threaded a long snaky thing through it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's just like madness. That was done on a Friday afternoon when you were hoping to get home early for tea.
uh, Where I mean, this might be a loaded question, this, but where's the best place in the world to go fossil hunting?
Um, Out there, it's where I would
Yeah,
always go.
down in Dorset.
Yeah, I
Like I said,
mean,
it might have been a loaded
literally
question.
5 minutes away from where I'm sat here. I can just
Yeah,
go
yeah,
and walk down,
yeah, yeah. I mean, and anywhere you can find fossils is the best place to
find
find
fossil. Yeah,
fossils. I mean,
anywhere. But
yeah,
where would I, if I had, if I was told you die tomorrow, you're allowed to go fossil collecting one more time? Yeah, it'd be there.
Polly might have already come across this one, but the one fossil that you wish you could find.
Wish I could find
Yeah,
pterosaur.
pterosaur. Yeah,
Pterosaur from here, a
yeah.
dimorphodon,
From Dorset,
which is the
dimorphodon.
pterosaur. I mean, I found
One of
pterosaurs.
the earliest pterosaurs.
I mean, I found bits of pterosaur before on the Isle of Wight and places like that, but I really want to find one from here.
Yeah, I once during my masters, I was looking through fissure film material from Cromwell Quarry near Bristol, and I came across a pterosaur vertebrae in the
Oh,
Triassic. Um, Unfortunately, uh, it then disintegrated. So I have the picture and I have the bones in a box in Bristol Bristol Museum, but it's just a pile of bones, unfortunately, in the box.
oh
But
no,
I do have the photograph in my
the photograph.
thesis,
But
so it
they're not really
proves that
diagnostic though,
it was
unfortunately, are
real.
they? Yeah, they're not really diagnostic though, are they? That's unfortunate.
No, no, unfortunately not. No, no. And when I found it, it was like I say, it was unlike anything I'd seen before. And I thought, well, what is it? And so obviously you go to your papers and you go to your books, and I came across this picture of a pterosaur, and I thought, like, oh, hang about, it looks very similar to that. And so I then followed that little trail down the rabbit hole
Yeah,
down towards that. And yeah, it was unless somebody can tell me otherwise, if they want to look at the specimen and look at the photograph and tell me if it's something else. Um, but yeah, it looked all
so
intents and
those
purposes.
fissure fills, and again, they're latest Triassic, earliest
Yeah,
Jurassic, depends on where you are in
yeah,
the stratigraphy.
yeah.
And there's no reason why you wouldn't have
No,
pterosaurs.
no, no, no. And there was a lot of interesting material in there. It was what outfoxed me with looking at those things was the fact that occasionally you came across carboniferous shark teeth.
Yes, the petalode, things like
So,
that.
so
And
like you're looking through all this Triassic, Jurassic material, and then occasionally you come across a carboniferous shark's tooth, and you're thinking, well, how did that hang about? What's this doing here? And then you realise that it's dropped out of the carboniferous rock and
yeah,
into the deposit. Yeah,
well, because the water
yeah,
dissolves, but it
absolutely.
doesn't dissolve. It dissolves the limestone, but doesn't dissolve
Dissolves
the
the
tooth because
limestone
it's
and any fossils inside, and these didn't dissolve and came out and dropped into
right.
the
So they
deposit. Yeah,
they rattle around and get
yeah,
deposited. Yeah.
yeah. Interesting. So here's the one question that everybody wants to know, and you've probably already told me this, that you're not interested in dinosaurs, but everybody wants to know, what's your favorite fossil? Sorry, not your favorite fossil.
The
What's your favorite dinosaur?
favorite dinosaur. If I had to pick one, it'll probably be Scelidosaurus because we get them here.
Yeah, yeah, and it's such an interesting dinosaur as well, the Scelidosaurus, because it's an early ankylosaurid type. It was a Thyroceras thought that I can't never pronounce it quite right, but anyway, it's on the lineage towards being a kind of like an offshoot from Stegosaurus and a ankylosaur, more towards the ankylosaur, nodosaur type lineage. So it was all armored, 4 feet, eight plant herbivore, and it had four legs and armor plating and spikes coming out to protect it from presumably some kind of theropod meat-eating dinosaur that was probably there that we haven't found yet. There might have been the odd theropod bone found down in Dorset, I believe.
Yes, we've got the odd theropod bone. Yeah,
Yeah,
the odd.
but like one or two, not like a complete carcass like
Gosh,
you
no.
have done with the
That.
Scelidosaurs. So
Um,
it's an interesting early dinosaur as well, really. Early,
yeah. Well,
lower Jurassic.
again, it's really interesting because generally you've got to have terrestrial environments
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
to find dinosaurs on
Yeah,
the whole. They didn't live in the sea. They weren't natural marine creatures, and they weren't swimming that much. So we do have a bit of a gap, apart from places in North America, in Arizona, where we've got a bit of a gap in the lower Jurassic.
yeah, yeah.
So Dilophosaurus, the two-crested thing that had
Yeah.
frill in Jurassic Park and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
venom.
Dilophosaurus. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that
yeah,
one is from Dilophosaurus weatheri. That's from the lower same sort of time period as we have here in
yeah, yeah,
Dorset, but in
yeah.
in North America. But that's one of the very few
But
that we have
I
from
mean,
this.
the fact that Sclerosaurus is so, I would say, advanced. That's probably not the right word I'm looking for, but advanced means that obviously, even in an evolutionary term, there must have been
Yeah,
ancestors to those creatures
you can
that
you you
probably
can
were in
you
the
can see
Triassic,
it's
but
a
we just haven't found them
Thyrophorian.
yet.
It's that typical body plan of
Yeah,
Stegosaurus type Ankylosaurus thing already.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's quite often that we do see that. It's really odd. So I know you were mentioning earlier, and we never got round to it, was the bit of marine croc,
yes,
because you've got marine crocs up in Yorkshire in the Upper Lias, known about them forever. Um, but we've got a big gap before that. They suddenly, appear. We've got a few fragments from the Lower Jurassic, uh, the lower Lias age around the world. A bit from India, a bit from Argentina, and then this thing turned up what 7 years ago,
yeah.
um, and
Yeah,
it was a
because
partial
you
skeleton.
don't get an awful lot of crocodiles in Dorset at all, compared to the Tuarcian, which is up in Yorkshire and over in Holsmarden, um, and that's very peculiar, and that it may well be a preservation bias, but probably more likely it's going to be mainly a paleoecology type
Well, it must be. So
thing.
200 years plus of collecting here.
Yeah,
That partial skeleton turns up, and then we recognised another bit, few vert that had been collected in the 20s in the NHM. Few other people started going, oh, what about this? And few more bits
yeah, okay, yeah,
now.
yeah.
and they were all generally bits of the snout because that's the most robust,
Yeah,
tough
yeah, yeah,
bit
yeah, yeah.
that
I
can
mean,
survive.
the piece I saw in the videos and everything looks very, very much like the ones you find in Yorkshire.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah,
and that's where I was going with that. Is again, there's an organism that is, as we see later on, it's like
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
hasn't really.
So
There's
it's
sort of,
clearly going to be there's going to be ancestors to those as well that we just obviously haven't seen, and that's when people talk about punctuated equilibrium. Punctuated, I forgot what the word is I'm looking for, but when they're looking at the tree of life and what have you, it's those gaps aren't necessarily caused by the fact that we haven't got it. It's the fact that the preservation just
we
wasn't
haven't got the
there.
rocks.
We haven't
Yeah,
got the rocks to look through.
yeah, the right place. So
They've
it's
completely gone.
so if we look at plesiosaurs, for example, we've got wonderful examples from from here, from the lower lias, from the blue
Yeah,
lias and
yeah,
the black van Marls. But then you get into the middle lias, the Pliensbachian,
yeah,
and we've got nothing. And they're
yeah,
really rare.
yeah,
We
yeah,
haven't
yeah,
got, even though we've got marine rocks, they're obviously not in that environment, and they're a really rare part. And then you get back up into the upper lias you've got in Yorkshire, and you get them again. So we have this critical period where they were evolving rapidly with no specimens. It's so
yeah, yeah,
frustrating.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's to do with the preservation. We haven't got the
Yeah,
rocks.
we just don't have the
There's
right
other things
sorts of
going
rocks.
on you know, tectonically different and things like that. So yeah, fascinating. Well, I mean, this has been an incredible conversation, Paul. I mean, we could be clocking up 3 hours at this rate, but I mean, we've got 2 hours. Um, so
I
we'll
feel
close
sorry
it
for you.
all
You've
down.
got to edit it.
Yeah, I've got to edit it all. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it'll probably take me a few days to do that. But I mean, it's been incredible. I mean, obviously, I could talk to you at length about all sorts of things, and I'm sure we will do when we're down in Lyme as well. Uh,
Yeah,
probably over a beer, probably when it's a
yeah.
little bit quieter.
Something brown and liquidy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I say, I've often wondered about doing a podcast in a pub, but we'll see, we'll see. I was going to bring a load of equipment down and do one in a pub when I
Yeah,
was in Dorset, but I'm not sure how feasible that is at the moment. But I'm thinking about it. But thank you very much again
pleasure.
for joining us today, and thanks for the chat. And if people want to get in contact, what have you, you're at the Lyme Regis Fossil Museum.
Yeah, Lyme Regis Museum. It's there is only the one Lyme Regis Museum. It's
Yeah,
easy to
yeah.
find me.
Where else people find you?
Oh well, I mean, if you look for me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm there. It's not. I'm I'm not hidden away. I'm not anything cryptic under a weird name. I think
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like Paul Davis or Paul Davis Fossil or something like that on the,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And one final plug about the Fossil Festival as well? What
Oh
the
yes,
dates
one
for those?
final plug. 13th, 14th of June here in Lyme. Go online to.
That's hopefully going to be annual as well. So it's always usually about the early June time every year for those
Yeah,
who can't make it this year.
it it swaps round by about a week to follow the tide because we always
Yes.
like to have it when you can actually
Yeah.
get on the beach and look for
Yeah.
fossils.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Fossilfestival.com is the website, and all the details and everything you'll need to know.
Program. Yeah. All the events. Yeah. That's great. That's great. So thank you again, Paul, and thank you again, everybody who's been listening to this podcast. I do appreciate your viewership. And if you want to learn more about what we do here at Fossils UK, please visit the website. And if you ever get a chance, head down to Lyme Regis, walk the beaches, and experience the birthplace of paleontology yourself. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the podcast for more episodes with fossil hunters, experts, collectors. And until next time, keep digging, keep finding, walk the beaches, look for fossils, and maybe you might find something interesting. Thank you again.